Hey, MSW student, welcome to the fall 2025 orientation. I'm going to record this to make it as easy as possible for all of us. That way you don't have to come to campus for this orientation, but can view it from the comfort of your own home, your office, your car, wherever you happen to be at this moment. I'm Kevin Brown. I'm the director of the MSW program, and my contact information is kbrown@suno.edu or 504-286-5052. I am here for you and to help you figure out how to navigate this program. And to do that, let's do a little orientation into how the program works. Ready? Okay. Once upon a time, there was an amazing woman named Millie M. Charles. Millie M. Charles was a social activist, a powerful force to be reckoned with in the city of New Orleans, very integral in the civil rights movement, and a warrior and crusader for the rights of all people. And she fought tirelessly. Eventually, she recognized that one of the best ways to create a generation of such leaders would be to start a social work program at an HBCU, which happened to be her very beloved school where you are now. In 1972, she established the BSW program, and then in 1983, she worked tirelessly to create the MSW program, the program in which you are now enrolled. Millie M. Charles became the namesake of the school. We named it after her in 2018, just a couple years before her death. And so the school is now called the Millie M. Charles School of Social Work, and this beautiful building that I sit in as I record this is her legacy and will soon be yours. There are three themes that are important to the Millie M. Charles School of Social Work. From the time of Millie M. Charles until the present, we believe that our work is all about advocacy, empowerment, and transformation. Advocacy is when we are a voice for those that have less of a voice, less power, less means, less wealth, less education, less whatever. We are a voice for them. We advocate for their needs. We stand up and make sure that those folks are counted. But that's not enough. We want to also use the power that we have to empower others, not just being a voice for them, but lending our resources, our social capital, our goodies, our voice, yes, but also our power to help empower those that don't have power of their own, thus enabling them to stand up and be advocates for the future. Now, this is really important. The Millie M. Charles School of Social Work is accredited by the Council on Social Work Education. They gave us their good housekeeping seal of approval. That says that we are doing what good social work educators do, what institutions need to do in order to give you the resources and competencies and knowledge and skills and values that you need to be a good social worker. In 2021, we were reaccredited by them, and that will last for 8 years till 2029, at which point we'll need to go through the process again to show that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. Now, here's some really good news. Social work is a very flexible profession. People come from a variety of undergraduate degrees to learn how to be social workers and bring that knowledge into the field. Now, we think on three levels. We think on the micro level. We intervene with individuals. We think on the meso level. We work with families and small groups. But we also work on the macro level, large groups and communities and governmental organizations, etc. In other words, you can change your career completely and still be a social worker because we run this large spectrum that allows you to flex and change and develop over time. In my own life, I went from being a psychotherapist to running psychiatric units and small hospital programs to being a community organizer and community developer, and now to the current being a social work professor. Those are pretty different things. But over time, I've flexed and still been at each stage a social worker. That's really good news for you. Now, to accomplish what it requires to be a social worker and for you to comply with the accreditation standards of CSWE, we have planned a 2-year program of study. Basically, the first year are foundation courses, and there's 11 courses there. There's 501, which is policy, 601 and 602, which are all about human behavior in the social environment, 603 and 620, which are macro level courses, that are meso-macro courses that think about administration and planning and organization. 604 and 610 are basic direct service courses teaching you how to do what social workers do. 605 is your first research course that introduces you to research. 606 and 607 are your foundational field courses in which you are paired with a social worker for 16 hours a week, 2 days basically of 2 full days, and you follow that social worker and learn how to do what social workers do at a basic level. And then 608 is diversity and oppression, or diversity and empowerment, which teaches you the various diversities and intersectionalities that people have so that you can think about ADEI, anti-racism, diversity, equity, and inclusion. That leads to the second year, roughly, where you take the advanced courses in either children, youth, and families, which has always been a strong focus since the time of Millie M. Charles, or health, mental health. There's essentially 9 courses there. You take 700 and 701, which are more advanced research courses. You've been introduced to research, now you'll do some research. 702 and 703, which are Field 3 and Field 4, your advanced field courses, where you'll be doing, for 16 hours a week, roughly, you'll be doing the work that you learned how to do in 606 and 607. 710, Direct Service 3, is an advanced direct service course that teaches you some advanced skills in the field. If you're a children, youth, and families major, you'll take 731, which is a assessment course teaching you how to assess children, youth, and families. 735, which is a treatment course teaching you how to do therapy with children, youth, and families. 737, which is an administration course teaching you how to create and develop your own programs within children, youth, and family. And then you'll have an elective. Or you will choose the health, mental health track, which is comprised of 4 courses, no electives. 732 and 734 are empowerment courses, as is 750, teaching you the assessment, intervention, and advanced intervention. And then 751 being the drug and alcohol course, which will teach you about behavioral addictions. And then, of course, you'll have to take the comprehensive exam, which is your gateway to understanding what your gaps of knowledge are. And you'll need to know where your gaps are to help you better focus your study for the licensing exam, the LMSW licensing exam, that you'll take either in your last semester here or upon graduation. And you don't want to wait too long to take that. So the comprehensive exam is an exam that tests all of your knowledge from the foundation through the advanced. Chances are you'll have already had a foundation exam the year before, after your foundation year, that prepares you for the comprehensive exam. Okay, let's move on. If you're wondering why my face disappeared, it's because I want you to be able to see both of these documents. So on the right, you have the full-time curriculum. On the left, you have kind of a flow. And I wanted you to be able to see how the foundation year and the advanced year flow. So on the right, this is a paper that you'll want to get a copy of from your advisors so that you can check off when you've taken these courses. On the left, you'll see how they flow. Fall 1, you take certain courses. Your first spring, you will take certain courses. So you notice that the fall, you'll take 4 courses. In the spring, you're taking 5. Well, that's because you're adding the first of your field courses in your first spring. In the summer, then you'll take your second field course and you'll take diversity. Then in the fall, you'll take 4 courses plus your field placement. In the spring, you'll take 4 courses. If you're CYF, one will be an elective, and then you'll take your comp exam. So you can see how for the children, youth, and families and the health, mental health, that flows. On the right then, you can see how it breaks down in kind of a list of all your classes. Now you'll see that the part-time program has an extra year because you're taking fewer classes each semester. We designed this program for people who are busy raising children or have full-time jobs, but you still have to plan for, at some point, taking field, which is 16 hours a week. And that would start then a little bit later. You'll notice here that if you read to the right through the curriculum plan, that you don't begin taking field 1 until your second spring. So in your first fall, you take 3 courses. Your first spring, you take 3 courses. In the summer, you take 3 courses. And then in the fall, you'll take 2 courses. In the second spring, you'll take 2 courses, one of which will be your first field, 605. And then it progresses through the summer, your third fall, and your final spring. So it takes a little bit longer to get the degree this way, but there's fewer courses, fewer papers, fewer exams, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You still have to do the entire field placement, which consists of roughly 220 hours each semester between your field seminar and your field placement. And so a total of 900 hours, okay? Hopefully this helps you envision how the program operates and where you need to take which course. You don't want to get behind, because if you're a full-timer and you start to take part-time, then you end up being a part-time student. You can't go back to being full-time. So when registering for your first semester, if you're a full-time student, you would take 501, 601, 604, and 603. Please follow the curriculum plan. If you get behind, if you take a course out of sequence, if you take the wrong course, then you could end up elongating your MSW by a year, because fall courses are only offered in the fall. And so those courses don't come around till the next fall. So don't get behind. Follow exactly this curriculum plan. If you're a part-timer, you'll be taking 9 hours, 601, 604, and 603. So that's how you need to be registered for the fall. Please register for your fall classes now. You need to be on top of this. Classes fill up, okay? Now, I've made mention of the practicum, but you need to pay particular attention to this slide. To earn an MSW requires that you spend 900 hours doing field work, working with a seasoned social worker who is going to help you learn how to do the things we're teaching in the classroom. Now, each semester of the 4 semesters that you take field, you will have both a field seminar and a field practicum, and they're combined. It's called field seminar and practicum. And so you will attend a class that is several hours each week that kind of talks about what you're learning and helps you keep abreast of your paperwork, turning that in on time. Helps you with assignments that will make your field placement come to life. At the same time, you'll be going each week, a couple days a week, up to 16 hours a week. You'll be going to an actual agency to do specific real work, learning how to do what social workers do. That's roughly 225 hours per semester between the field seminar and the field practicum. For full-time students, you'll be in your second semester, so that starts in the spring and goes through your 4th semester. For part-time students, it will be in your 5th semester, so it will be the spring of your 5th semester, and it will go through your 8th semester. So in both instances, it's spring, summer, fall, and then spring again. You need to apply with Ms. Tina Smith and obtain a placement before the spring, the first spring, and the second fall. So you need for field 1 and field 2, which typically are at the same agency, you need to find your field placement before the spring semester. And then for field 3 and field 4, you need to find your field placement in the summer before the fall begins, or in the spring of the previous year, so that you have your field placement lined up and ready to go when it comes time for field. There is no deviation from this. You must do 900 hours of field. You cannot get out of this requirement. And so if you've got a full-time job and you're thinking you can do this on evenings and weekends, not going to happen. You're going to need to find a way to accommodate agency hours, which are typically daytime hours, during the week. So think about this. It's really important that when it becomes time to take field, you can't say, I'm not going to do that. Or if you're a full-time student, I'm going to put it off. The moment you put it off, you find yourself as a part-time student status, because you then can't graduate until you take all 4 fields, and they're only offered spring, summer, and then fall and spring. So if you put it off, it's put off for an entire year, okay? All right, enough about field. You'll cross that bridge when you get to it. Now you're enrolled in an on-ground class format. We're allowed to offer a few of our courses in an online format, but the vast majority of our courses will be in person, on ground, in a classroom. Sometimes those classes can be held virtually for certain unusual reasons, like the campus is closed due to a storm, or I don't know, some other reason. We can occasionally have a class virtually, but we're not going to offer an entire semester virtually unless it's one of the rare fully online asynchronous courses. We use the Canvas learning management system, and so all of your stuff should be in Canvas, and your professor should be working with you through Canvas when you're not in the classroom. And you'll typically submit your stuff through Canvas, not always. Now, occasionally, we offer a few online asynchronous courses. They're 100% online, but there's only a few of them. And even in those courses, the instructors could offer an occasional virtual meeting space for real-time meetings for further instruction. Also, we'll be using the Canvas learning system in the online asynchronous courses as well. But if you think that you can manage to get through this program doing 100% online, it's not going to work. There's not enough courses online, and those courses are so popular that they fill up instantly. So you really need to think of this as an on-ground course. We'll offer the vast majority of courses evening and weekends, but some courses will be offered at 3 o'clock in order to make it so that you can take 2 courses in one day, one at 3 and one at 6. We offer some Saturday courses as well. So think of this as an on-ground program. Think of yourself as attending classes in real time, and you'll be okay. Here's a look at the full-time tuition and fees, although this is probably already changed. It's likely to have increased between the time I made this slide and the time that you're actually hearing my voice. So this is what a full-time program looks like. It's going to cost about $22,680 to do a master's. It's probably a little bit more than that these days. Here's what part-time looks like. A total $17,420 to do an entire program, but I suspect it's significantly higher. I know that field fees have gone up as one thing. So don't hold me to these numbers, but this is kind of a ballpark figure. If you really want to know what it's going to cost to attend SUNO's MSW program, you probably need to go talk to the bursar's office, the cashier's office, and they can give you the more recent fees, or look it up online. Okay, this slide is really important. We mentioned earlier the Council on Social Work Education. The Council on Social Work Education has 9 things that they have determined all social workers need. 9 competencies, 9 things that you must be able to do in order to practice social work. And so as part of our accreditation, we are measured on these 9 competencies, and we will measure you, therefore, on these 9 competencies. And so that's the the two exams that you're going to take, one after your first year and one at the very end, right, competency exams. And this is what we're measuring. And this is what you need to know as a social worker. Number one, you need to be able to demonstrate professional and ethical behavior. We'll talk a lot about the NASW Code of Ethics, which you can find free online by going to NASW's website. Also, the CSWE in their EPOS, 2022 EPOS, which you look up EPAS and CSWE, and you can read more about those, and that'll highlight more about what we're talking about with these 9 competencies. Anyway, we want you to show us here at SUNO that you are professional and ethical. And that means you need to be very careful in the way you communicate with each other and the way you communicate with faculty and staff. The way you dress, the way you act in the classroom, the way you act at your field placement. All of these, whether you show up on time and don't leave early, whether you follow the policies of the organization, of the school, all of these things are professional behaviors. Number 2, we want you to advance human rights, but not just human rights. We want you to seek equity and fairness in social, racial, economic, and environmental justice. Number 3, we want you to practice anti-racism, diversity, equity, and inclusion. All of these are very important elements of what social workers do, and we fight for these things. Number 4, we not only want you to use evidence-based practices in your work, but we want you to be both consumers and producers of such evidence. And so we want you to be practice-informed researchers and research-informed practitioners. In other words, we want to prove that what we do works, write about it in the literature, and then be able to research the literature so that we're not just doing whatever we want, but we're doing real practices with real potential for improvement as shown by the evidence in the literature. That's called evidence-based practice. Number 5, we engage in policy practice, and thus you'll take a course in policy, and you'll be talking about policies in multiple courses because we want you to understand how policies drive practice. In the government, in organizations, in schools, everywhere you go, policies drive practice. And so you have to understand the importance of policy and how to create policy and how to use policy to drive what you do. Number 6, 7, 8, and 9 all are very similar except for one word: engage, assess, intervene, and evaluate. Now remember we talked about the micro, meso, macro practice world? Well, if you think about individuals, small groups, and large groups, you'll see why each of these refers to individuals, families, groups, organizations, and communities. That's the micro to meso spectrum, or micro to macro spectrum, with meso in the middle. So first, you have to learn how to be able to sit with individuals, families, groups, organizations, and communities and develop a relationship, because it's relationships with us, the social worker, that brings about change. You are the primary tool in your toolbox, and thus you've got to be able to engage well with clients, whether they be individuals, families, groups, organizations, or communities. Number 2, we're going to teach you how to assess clients, individuals, families, organizations, communities, groups. We're going to teach you how to assess them, how to use assessment tools commonly available to social workers to understand what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are. Number 8, we want you to intervene, to do something to bring about change with your client, whether it be a micro, meso, macro client. And so we're going to teach you how to use that assessment and place those strengths and those challenges together and create a problem-solving process to move the client from where they are to where they want to be, towards the goals that they have for themselves. Number 9, it's not enough to engage, assess, and intervene, but we have to know if what we did works. And so that we're going to teach you evaluation, both in your research class and elsewhere, how to evaluate your practice to know whether what you did had a positive impact both in the short term and in the long term. Because if what you're doing is not working, why are you doing it, right? So we want to be able to evaluate our practice. So those are the 9 competencies that you will need to learn to be an effective social work practitioner. The National Association of Social Workers is our professional organization. It's the organization that gives us guidance, provides us CEUs and learning opportunities, helps you with things like practice insurance. It also advocates for you at multiple levels, from the professional level all the way up to the federal government level. And they even defend you in malpractice situations, in certain situations. So as a student, you can actually join, and it costs a whole lot less. And an added benefit, if you join as a student, you pay less for the first few years after you graduate. But NASW can help you connect with other social workers and begin to network as you look for jobs. It can provide learning opportunities. They advocate for you, and it can help you advance your career. And so you are going to want to join NASW or some social work organization, but we all recommend NASW because it's the largest and most powerful. But it's relatively inexpensive to join as a student. So consider joining NASW. I mentioned when we talked about competency 1 that we want you to be an ethical social worker. Now, the Social Work Code of Ethics, the NASW Code of Ethics, which can be accessed free on their website. If you search NASW and Code of Ethics, you can get it free, and you're going to need it because you're going to study it in multiple classes. Social work has 6 core values. These are service. We believe in serving our clients. We are servant leaders. We believe in social justice. We value the dignity and worth of the individual. We believe in the importance of human relationships. I mean, after all, the change factor is a relationship between a client and a social worker. We are people of integrity. We are honest, and we are truthful, and we do what we say. And finally, our 6th value is that we value competence. So we want to be constantly becoming better at what we do. And one of the things you're going to have to do for the rest of your life, as long as you practice social work, is to make sure that you're taking continuing education. You have to have 20 hours a year to maintain your license. And of those, 3 have to be in ethics every other year. Now, in addition to our values, we have ethical responsibilities, not just to our clients, but also to our colleagues. I mean, if we have colleagues that are practicing poorly or have substance abuse problems, we want to be able to help them because we have a obligation to our profession as well. We want social work to be a valued profession. And if social work is not a valued profession, then we're just a bunch of do-gooders, and people are going to put us down and pay us poorly, and we're not going to get what we should, right? And so if we treat social work as a professional practice, that we are professionals, right, doing professional things, then our value will go up because people will look up to us more. Think about the difference between a doctor and a social worker. Doctors are highly valued professions, and social workers are kind of working our way up the ladder. And so we want to be where doctors are, but we can only get there if we act professionally, if we dress well, carry ourselves well, write well, speak well, present well, right? We have an obligation to our practice setting, an ethical responsibility to our practice setting. If our practice setting, our agency is doing something wrong, we need to call it out. That's our ethical responsibility. We have an ethical responsibility to other professionals like doctors and psychologists and nurses, that we want to practice interprofessionally in an ethical way. We have an obligation to the social work profession, as I mentioned earlier. And we have an ethical responsibility to the larger society. We want to bring about societal change. And so we can't just sit passively by and allow bad things to happen. We need to act responsibly and ethically when it comes to society. Now, the NASW Code of Ethics expands on these values and expands on these ethical responsibilities. And so you might want to take some time to read that soon because you're going to read it for class. This is a strange time in our nation's history, by the way. Things are being undone that we fought for years, like voting rights and diversity, equity, and inclusion. As social workers, we stand at the forefront of fighting against these threats to our democracy. Now, there are some threats to individual rights like bodily autonomy and same-sex marriage, etc. There are challenges, as I've mentioned, to voting rights. There's a bunch of environmental challenges that people are facing, like placing pipelines in the middle of Native American hunting and fishing grounds, or climate change that people are just ignoring. And certainly this is an unprecedented time where technology and social media have begun to change things. And all of these forefronts, we as social workers need to be standing up and making our voices heard so that people don't get left behind. In fact, just recently, as the week that I recorded this, the state of Louisiana decided to roll back some of the things they were going to do for rural parishes about bringing internet accessibility using fiber optic cable. They've decided not to do that and to use satellites instead. No, by the way, satellites are, the major satellite company is funded by a guy named Elon Musk, who was very close to the Republican administration. So all of that to say that we've got to watch for these things. We have to fight for our clients, making sure that all have equal access to the goodies of society and not just those with money and power. With that said, let's change tacks. So you need to get to know your advisor. Your advisor is your advocate. Your advisor is a person that can help you through the program so that you don't get backwards in the program. We encourage you to meet with your advisor every semester. Get to know your advisor. It's pretty easy to figure out who your advisor is. For example, if your last name begins with A to C, A, B, or C, your advisor is Dr. Freeman. If your last name begins with D, E, F, or G, your advisor is Dr. McKinney. So D through G is McKinney. If your last name begins with H, I, J, K, or L, H through L, your advisor is Dr. Murray. If your last name begins with M, N, O, P, Q, or R, your advisor is Dr. Sanders. So M through R is Sanders. And if your last name begins with S through Z, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z, your advisor is Dr. Centino. So now you know who your advisor is. Consult with them every semester. Ask them about your curriculum plan and your schedule, making sure that you're on the right track. If you have any concerns about grades or about your instructors, let them know. If you have any questions about your profession, about social work as a profession, then talk to them about that. They can give you professional advice. And certainly when life happens, when things happen that keep you from performing at your best, let them know so they can help you. Don't simply take a low grade like an F or a C, and by the way, we don't give Ds, or an FX because you didn't get the work done, because then you have to repeat those classes all over again. If we can help you, we want to, but you gotta let us know. Likewise, your instructors. Communicate with your instructors. We're all here because we've decided we want to be at SUNO. I've had multiple jobs offered to me in the time I've been here, and I've chosen to stay. Number one, I love New Orleans. Number two, I love this institution and her students. So I have chosen to be here, and I'm not alone. All my colleagues feel the same way. Many of us could go other places in a heartbeat, but we want to be here with you. Don't think that we're out to get you, or that we're jerks, or that we're mean, or that we're just trying to make busy work or trying to create problems for you. We're not. But we don't know what's going on with you unless you communicate. If you're unclear on the assignment, if you're unclear on a concept, ask us. If you're having challenges outside the classroom that's impacting your ability to perform, talk to us. And frankly, just get to know them better, because these instructors have amazing lives and have done incredible things. And unless you spend the time to get to know us, you'll never understand those things. And we can help you get ahead if you will take the time to get to know us. If you find yourself moving towards getting an F in a class or getting an FX, which means you didn't complete the assignments and didn't take an incomplete, drop the class. It's better to drop a class and get a W instead of getting an F or an FX, which will harm your grades. Now, when it comes to grades, remember, you can only get 2 C's in this program, and if you get a third C, that's automatically treated like an F, and there is no such thing in the Millie M. Charles School of Social Work as a D. So you get a C or an F. We'll talk more about that in a second. The best way to communicate with us is through email. So first, send an email. Document your contact with your professor and with anybody else you communicate with. Include your name, your U number, and very detailed description of the concern that you want to discuss. Sometimes people write to me and I don't even know which of my classes they're in. So maybe you also want to identify the class that you're in so that the professor knows which student this is and how best to help you. Now, we're all busy. All of us have research responsibilities and responsibilities as administrators and teaching classes. And by the way, believe it or not, we do have lives. And so give us 24 hours. Follow up with a phone call. And so send the email and then make a phone call to the professor. And if you have no response between the phone call, telling them that you sent the email, and the email within 24 hours, try a second email. Now, if none of that works and 48 hours have passed, it's time to contact me, the MSW Director, and I will help you sort that out. I will advocate for you with that professor. Speaking of email, you will have 2 emails. One is an SUS email, Southern University System, and the second email is a SUNO email. Now, my suno.edu email will take the form of notifications about things that are happening on campus, like financial aid and Canvas kinds of things. Whereas the SUS email is from the larger system and will be notifications about things, especially things involving Banner, where a lot of your enrollment stuff and your payment stuff will take place. And so there are ways of funneling your SUS email into your SUNO email to make sure that you get all the emails in one place and you don't have to keep going back and forth. And frankly, you could also forward your personal email to your SUNO and SUS emails, or SUNO email. Or you could even forward your SUNO and SUS to your personal email. But that assures that you get all the messages that you're supposed to be getting. So I, for example, only log on to my SUNO email because my SUS is being forwarded to my SUNO email. It's a little bit different how you do that depending on which email you're using. But if you're using Outlook, there's some, or the regular SUNO system, there's some easy ways of doing it. And so consult with me or with a classmate or with your advisor or instructor to figure out how to forward your SUS to your SUNO email to make it. The MSW requires 60 credit hours. And so to graduate, you have to have those 60 credit hours plus, remember, the 900 hours of field. Those are the 2 big numbers to remember. Academically, to stay in the program and to graduate, you're going to need to maintain a 3.0 GPA. You can only have 2 C's. The third C then counts as an F, and you have to take that course over. So watch your C's. Try not to get a C if you can help it. In field courses, however, if you get a C, that's like an F. So you can only get an A or a B in field, which means you got to work really hard at field. Don't screw up with your assignments in the field seminar, because that could easily result in you getting a C. Make sure you turn everything in on time. If you get 2 C's or an F or an FX, you will have to repeat that course. The third C or any F's or FX's, you will have to repeat that course. And by the way, if you get a third C, you'll probably be put on probation. If you get a F or an FX, you'll be put on suspension, which will elongate your program by a whole year because you have to sit out for a semester. We're going to review your progress every semester. We're going to be looking for those C's or F's or FX's to help you along. And remember, we have no Ds. But also, to stay in the program, you need to be professional. You need to adhere to the NASW Code of Ethics, as I've pointed out. We're going to be paying particular attention to your integrity, professional integrity, right, which is a ethical value of the profession. We do not want to see plagiarism. If you don't know how to cite using APA, you could easily pass off something that another has written as if it were your own, and you don't want to do that. Even if it's a mistake, that could result in some pretty serious sanctions, including being kicked out of the school. That's not just the School of Social Work, but the entire university. The other thing we want you to be able to do is to balance your life and your educational stressors. If you get out of balance, everything's going to fall apart for you. Finally, remember, be kind to the people who work here. We are not your servants in the sense of somebody you can treat poorly. If you treat the staff or the faculty poorly, that will be a sign that something's wrong. That's not professional behavior, that's not acting with integrity, and that's not competent social work behavior. And that could result in suspension or even expulsion from the program. So think before you send that email. Carefully consider before you make that phone call, because the result of acting improperly could be catastrophe for you. Now, I've mentioned C's, F's, and FX's. There are no D's in this program. You'll make one of those if you failed to complete the assignments adequately. So make sure you're communicating with your professor about what they expect so that you know. If you fail to alert the instructor about personal life circumstances that are impacting your ability to perform in the classroom. If you didn't make arrangements with them, that's going to result in a lower grade. And if you look like you're going to make an F or an FX or a third C in a class, and you don't withdraw from a class in a timely fashion or arrange with the instructor before the class is over to take an incomplete, then you will get a C, an F, or an FX. Please pay attention to what you're doing. Talk to your professors, talk to your advisors, and if necessary, talk to me, the MSW director, so that we can help you through this. We don't want you to make C's, F's, or FX's, but we'll be forced to assign those to you if you don't do what you're supposed to do. So stay on top of your grades. In terms of your GPA, if your GPA falls before a 3.0 or you receive an F in any course, you will be probably put on suspension, but certainly put on probation, and if it happens more than once, we will consider expelling you from the program, meaning that you can no longer attend SUNO's MSW program. If you receive a C or an F in a field course, you can be asked to leave the program, certainly suspended from the program, and you'll need to repeat. Even if you get a C in a field course, you'll need to repeat that course. So do the paperwork for the seminar part, turn it in a timely fashion, do the timesheets and the safety plan and the contract and the midterm and final evaluation. Make sure that you do all that stuff and get it in on time, and make sure that you show up on time to your field placement, that you work the number of hours, that you are working with your field instructor in the field placement, to your field supervisor, so that you're doing the right stuff so that you don't get a C or lower in field. That's catastrophic. Now, there may be a time when you feel that you want to appeal a grade that you made, that you feel was given to you incorrectly, or that you want to file a grievance for unfair treatment. Now, there's some steps that I recommend you take. First, try to work it out with the instructor, because the process of going through an appeal or a grievance is very complicated and very difficult. And frankly, it's gonna be anxiety provoking for you. It's gonna be hard for you. It's gonna be hard for all of us. So first, try and work it out with your instructor. If that doesn't work, go to your advisor and try to work it out with your advisor. Now, if going to the instructor and going to the advisor doesn't work and you still feel like you've been aggrieved in some way and that you need to appeal, then you need to complete some written forms, the grievance or appeal form, with your advisor's help. That then goes to the Academic Progress and Retention Committee. And then it comes to me, the MSW director. You will go through a specific process of an appeal that involves a committee, and some students will be on that appeals committee along with some professors, and then they will make a decision as to whether your appeal is upheld or denied, or your grievance is upheld or your grievance is denied. And then it goes to the dean, who makes a final decision. Likewise, a grievance, it goes to a grievance committee, and each one of those has, as I've mentioned, student reps. At some point, you graduate, hopefully. And if you graduate, when you graduate, I'm going to be hopeful for you when you graduate, you will then want to take the Louisiana State Board of Social Work Examiners exam. Well, actually, you want to go through the process of licensure, because if you practice social work without a license in the state of Louisiana, you can be brought up on charges, fined, and even do jail time. So there are 2 times when you can begin the process of licensure. And the first is in your very last semester of the MSW program. You can take the LMSW exam, but you have to fill out the paperwork first. And there's a special document that has to come to us, to me probably, and then I take it over to the registrar who stamps it. I fill it out, take it to the registrar who stamps it after it's signed by me and signed by the dean, and then we send that off to the Louisiana State Board of Social Work Examiners. You send off your application, you pay the application fee and the testing fee, and you do the criminal background check, and then you are eligible to sit for the LMSW exam, which we want you to pass, because we want you to be an LMSW, because it's more powerful than the RSW. So you have to have an MSW degree or be in your last semester and have the Council on Social Work approval, the State Board of Social Work Examiners approval to sit for the exam. If you can't pass the exam, you can always get the registered social worker, the RSW license, which is a lesser license, and MSWs or BSWs could have that license. So you can see how if BSW and an MSW are on equal footing, the MSW doesn't have as much value, whereas the LMSW takes you to another level. And then you get to sign all of your documents, Jane Doe or John Doe, comma, LMSW. And that's kind of cool, right? Now, after you've been in the field for a while, you've been practicing as a professional, you've graduated, you've had your LMSW, and you have gotten supervision with a board-approved clinical supervisor who's also an LCSW, then you, after working for 3,000 hours and having 96 hours of face-to-face supervision with this LCSW BACS, you can then sit for the clinical exam. And when you pass the clinical exam, you are now able to practice social work without any supervision whatsoever. LMSWs need supervision, LCSWs do not. And so these are the stages of licensure for you. Pay close attention because you want to be licensed, or you're practicing social work without a license, which is a problem. Now, there's some chances to prep for this test. If you want to practice and take an online kind of prep course or take advantage of an opportunity that we have that through the library. So you go to the SUNO Washington Library, and then you click on databases, and then you look for the database that says Mometrix, M-O-M-E-T-R-I-X. Then you go to Counseling and Social Work under Mometrix, and then under that you go to the Master of Social Work, and that is a test prep resource that is an actual previous test using actual questions from the LMSW that can help you prepare. You can also do things like take private test prep, often offered by NASW or offered locally by a BACS. We offer one every year for free. Tulane offers one. You can take them at other places as well, but it's a test prep course, and that can help you understand the strategies of taking the test. We talked about Canvas, the learning management system, and so if you have challenges with Canvas, then you'll need to speak with Ms. Sheila Wood. Her email address is swood@suno.edu, and her phone number is 504-286-5368. If you're having trouble with your computer and can't get your computer to connect for some reason, then you can send a service request to Information Technology, and their email is service@suno.edu, and they're pretty good at responding quickly. If you have any questions about books, especially the electronic books that we're increasingly using here at SUNO, you want to call Dawn Massey at the library. Her number is 504-286-5324, or you can email the Follett people at d.haydel@follett, Follett.com. Those are some helpful emails for you to remember. If those don't work, or the links have changed, or the personnel have changed, contact me or your advisor, and we'll figure out how to get through it. Now, we have some supportive services on campus. If you have any form of disability which requires you to have special accommodations, you will need to make accommodation requests to the Office of Disability. So you can't just come to a class and say, I have a disability, you need to accommodate me. You actually have to go to and talk to, or at least have some form of communication with the Office of Disabilities, and they will determine what your specific accommodations should be within the realm of what's possible here at SUNO. You can't tell us, they have to tell us. I mean, you can remind us that you have a disability and you need some accommodations, but you can't make your own accommodations. Does that make sense? You have to go through the Office of Disability Services. Otherwise, we could have people making stuff up, and that's not fair to you if you have a specific and real disability that requires extra accommodations. So you'd want to make contact with ODS, the Office of Disability Services, ODS@suno.edu. We also have mental health support. We have a full-time counselor on campus, Dr. Kimberly Page, who is very competent. And look, guys, if you're going to be seeing clients in your life, and social workers see clients, we serve clients, and you've never been to some form of intervention yourself, you've never been to a therapist or a counselor or had some social work services yourself, then how are you ever going to know what it feels like to be on the receiving end? I highly recommend that you have a session or two or three or four or more with Dr. Kimberly Page on campus. It'd be well worth your time. But specifically, if you're having some life challenges that you're struggling to get through, challenges with family, with spouse, with work, with death in the family, with grief, with any kinds of issues, we want you to be successful. And so we provided a therapist, a counselor on campus, Dr. Kimberly Page, who you can make an appointment with, and it's free. We also have a food pantry, and if you have trouble dressing for success, we have some clothing resources as well. People donate suits and dresses that are professional in nature to help you for that interview, okay? And there's other supportive services. You'll see them on your syllabus, but those are three I wanted to call out to your attention. The student handbook is very, very important, so I'm going to end here. If you go to the SUNO's Millie M. Charles School of Social Work homepage and you look on the left-hand side, you see the red arrow down there where it says handbook. You want to look up the MSW handbook. A lot of the issues for which you might call me and ask me to answer for you could actually be found in the handbook, along with some of the forms that you need to get things done. So make sure that you are comfortable with the handbook, that you know the handbook, you know where to find it, you know what the contents are, so that if you have issues that you need to resolve, you can look in the handbook. There's also a lot of stuff on this Millie M. Charles School of Social Work webpage that could be helpful to you, including a whole bunch of stuff about field education. One of the things that we have a great advantage for you if you're willing to take the plunge is we have a paid internship with the Department of Children and Family Services for your advanced year, which is your Field 3 and Field 4 courses. They will pay you, and if you are successful, they will hire you upon graduation, and you will have a job the day you graduate from SUNO. So talk to Monique Hurst, Ms. Monique Hurst, on our campus if you have any interest in working with DCFS and working with children, youth, and families. What a powerful way to start your career with a paid internship and a guaranteed job. Highly encourage you to take advantage of that. Okay, so if you have any other questions, my number is 504-286-5052. You know who your advisor is by your last name, the first letter of your last name. You have my email address, which is kbrown@suno.edu, and know that all of us, from the person who answers the phone in the dean's office all the way up to the dean herself, and including all the staff and faculty of the Millie M. Charles School of Social Work, we are on your side. We want you to succeed. We believe in you. So take advantage of the resources that we've made available so that you can pass, get your MSW, get out in the professional world, and make us proud. I'll see you in the classroom. Y'all take care, or in the hallways. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.